Unfortunately for us as humans, we don't really get to decide our fate. We have to take what we're given. I just woke up one day and I found myself in Nigeria. I had to ask God, bro, why here? Bro, why? Why? The truth is, realistically, at the time that I was born, there is no way I would have actually known the enigma that I had been born into. In the coming years, I was just about to find out. My dad was a stubborn lawyer, consistently challenging the military administration. My mom was the one holding down the clan, possibly hoping this guy will keep his mouth shut one day. But it wasn't to be. And for gaps of time, long spans of time, he would be away from home. And my mom would tell me, oh, he traveled, he went on a trip. But I would realize that anytime he returned, there was so much celebration in the house. I guess they forgot to follow up that he just went on a casual trip, because why are you celebrating? It was much later in life I started to realize he was actually being detained in those times. Every time he spoke up against the military administration, they were brutal. They would take you and lock you up. But after some time, they would release him. And my dad, like clockwork, would go back and talk again. And they would take him and lock him up again. At the time I was finding out what was really going on, in those times, I'm now a big boy. I've gone to university in the UK. I went to the University of Reading in the United Kingdom to study law. Surprise, surprise. And returned to go to the Nigerian law school here in Abuja, actually. Big shout outs for that. Make some noise. I went to law school here. But all this while I was studying, I was finding my passion for art, making music. It was becoming a safe haven for me, somewhere I could express, somewhere I could just pour my heart out. And I was genuinely loving it. And my style was starting to carve itself out. I remember someone had described my style at the time as storytelling laced with satire. And it sounded so exciting to me. I was like, oh, this is literature, man. Imagine me being excited by this, especially at a time when what rappers wanted to do was be gangster. So it was very different. But I wasn't shy to be different. I was very fine with being different. And speaking of different, there was a man that I listened to a lot of his records growing up. My dad happened to be his lawyer for a considerable amount of time. And he put us on these records. This man's name is Fela Kuti. He was definitely different. And I would sing these songs, A to Z, word for word. But I didn't really know what I was singing. Suffering and smiling, every day not the same thing. Suffer for what? Enjoy for heaven. I see my people are here, okay. I didn't know what I was singing. But fast forward back to the now. Done with uni, done with law school, new lawyer, now trying to make it in music because this is my real passion. I'm hit. I'm gobsmacked with the shock because I'm coming from an utterly orderly society and I've just plunged into chaos. It was a lot for me, man. I was like, what's happening here? And I had so many questions and I would try to engage people in conversation. Be like, bro, what's going on now? Why is there still no light? Why are the roads like this? Why are people still so poor? Why are people still so hungry? What's happening? And often, the response I would get from people was, Baba, na Nigeria we do. Welcome to Nigeria. What do you mean, welcome to Nigeria? I was annoyed by that response. But then, one thing I realized, amidst all this chaos, was blossoming, was the business of worship. And then, those Fela records started to make sense. So far forward, enjoy for heaven. I realized people had settled into such superstition and just being comfortable with praying away their problems, and rather than ask for accountability, just sit and hope and pray. But it wasn't really their fault. It had become culture because we weren't raised to ask questions. We were never raised to ask questions. You weren't really allowed to challenge anything. You have to just take it as it is. So people had accepted this dysfunction with such surrender. And I was genuinely spooked. What is going on here? And naturally, as an artist, my music making process draws inspiration from my environment. Of course, I'll talk about it. Started to talk about it. If I'm displeased with this, I'll complain about it. If I don't think this is right, I'll criticize it, not minding whose feathers I'm ruffling in the process, because I never set out to please anybody. I don't really care. I'm expressing myself. I'm feeling genuinely. And a lot of people would often say, these people you are fighting for, they will still turn around and fight you. I'll say, thank you for the advice. However, I've never at any point said to myself, now I want to fight for these people. No. Whatever cause that I champion, whatever I speak about, whatever I create art about, I'm doing it because I genuinely believe that. This is just my conviction. I'm just moving as I'm feeling. That is what we do. And some people also say, when are you coming out to declare? Are you not running for office? Bro, have I ever struck you as a politician? Why would you ask me that? But I realized why. It is unusual for someone to publicly posture as an activist without having an ulterior motive. And it dawned on me, the situation is really messed up. Do you care about people? That's all I'm thinking about. If I'm making art that's conscious, if I'm making music that's like this, look, I don't have to. But what I'm thinking is, don't we have to care about each other? You can't tell me that you have closed down the schools, the children should go home, they can't study because it's not safe for them to study. Come on. How about you tell me that the people that are traumatizing them, murdering their parents, have been arrested, prosecuted, and incarcerated, and now it's safe for them to return to school? So, do you truly care about people? What are you doing? And even us, the people, what are we doing to demand this? What shapes the way that we think? What shapes the way that we think? What shapes the way that we think? I think a group of people inevitably, naturally, are shaped by their culture. And what is culture? Culture is just the way of life of people. This is what we have been doing. This is tradition. This is how we do it. So this is what it is. Right? So culture sort of over time shapes the way that you think. And we cannot argue that culture, in terms of what it means to us, is totally corrupted, extremely warped. So now what we need to do is to reshape culture. This is the way I look at it. This is why I make the kind of music that I'm making. Because what I'm thinking in my mind is, oh no, we need to rearrange. We shouldn't be thinking like this. What is a big way to influence culture? It's music. I'll put it in there in the music. Sometimes it's confrontational. Other times it's subtle. But you will pick up on the message if you listen. If you consume the art as it ought to be, you will pick up on the message. And that's what influences what shapes the way that I think. Another thing that shapes the way that I think should shape the way that you think, is logic. Logic. We've become so inherently superstitious. Let's pause for a moment and be logical. Why did I hear on the news that a governor, amidst all this insecurity, declared one day for fasting and prayer? What is that meant to do in real life? What is that? I don't mean to discountenance your faith. You can have faith for as much as you like, but you need to do. What are you doing in this life? This that you speak of is a spiritual realm. We can't touch it, we can't hold it. We need to think more logically. Don't just suck yourself in this, oh, I'm trying to live for the... Bro, live for here. What are you doing here? I am neither Christian nor Muslim because I've existed amidst people that have postured as holy despite being inherently wicked to themselves and to others. And I've had the privilege to be able to contrast that with a father that I spoke about earlier that sacrificed his freedom, time with his family, very early on as well, for a cause that he genuinely believed in. That was not rooted in any kind of religion. No. It was just rooted in humanity. How do we relate with each other? I think regardless of your faith, regardless of your political ideology, regardless of your place of worship, what should be at the center, at the very epicenter of the way that we relate with each other should be humanity. Let's just try to be humane. Let's just try to be humane. This is what I was speaking about earlier. Do you really just genuinely care about people? Let's try to care now. How can you tell me that all this is happening? The scores and scores of people being killed on a daily. And this, it didn't just start. It didn't just start. Do you know when the first incident involving any type of terrorist started in this country? It's been years. It's been maybe over 15 years. But what has happened over time? We've become numb to it. No one's reacting. They captured 300 girls from their school. 300 girls. The 300 parents that took their children to school and all of a sudden could not find their children. 300. Guess what? That same night, we're in the club turning up to the max. I think it's ridiculous. We need to actually care. We can't afford to allow ourselves be numb. We need to make real sacrifices for each other. Be there for each other. It's very important. What do we intend to leave behind? In today's world, we are largely marginalized. We are subdued. As a result of slavery, colonialism, we've been looted, all our resources taken away. We're deeply, deeply traumatized from the effects of all this. But yes, this is our story. But are we going to let this define us? Because why do I have conversations with people and this is almost sounding like an excuse? I'm not denying that it happened. It's there. You know, it's a part of my history. But I refuse to be defined by it. The potential is undeniable. Look at us. Physically, we're the strongest. Intellectually, we're the smartest. We're the most brilliant. Talent-wise, we're gifted. Put in any enabling society, we will succeed. The evidence is there. It's just the dysfunction here. And it's because of what culture has become, how warped it's become. And we cannot even dare pass this on to the next generation. This can never be what we leave behind. Every fiber of your being should be working towards flipping the script, rewriting your story. This is not me. This cannot be me, bro. I'm a lot more than this. And I will be more than this. I genuinely feel art and consciousness are very interwoven, very intertwined. So when I make music, when I create art that involves a conscious message, I'm lending my voice in this way, in that way, I don't feel like I'm going out of my way. I think it's a civic duty that I owe. I think social activism is a civic duty that we all owe. And even though you might not do it in the same way that I do it, I think we need to do more of it, and a lot more of it. Do not sit down waiting for your Messiah. My brother, my sister, be your own Messiah. Thank you very much. My name is Falz.